Hello, my name is Stacey. I've decided to share my journey on YouTube because my journey, it's been a long journey, and I feel that if I can just reach one person, give one person hope, help one person in any way, in regards to sharing my story, then, I feel that what I've gone through has meaning, because I honestly feel that I've been through this for a reason, and I know that that reason is to help somebody. So, to start off, back in March of last year, I was sent for a cystoscopy, and turns out that I was diagnosed with interstitial cystitis. In other words, painful bladder syndrome. Before this, I had given birth to my daughter, and I had constant bladder infections, and they were just giving me antibiotic after antibiotic, and I had no visible blood in my urine. So, when it comes to cancer, that is one of the main things that they look for. So cancer wasn't on anybody's mind. They just kept giving me antibiotic after antibiotic. So then they finally sent me for a cystoscopy, and they diagnosed me with interstitial cystitis. So I got put on a very expensive antibiotic, and it wasn't working. And deep down inside, I knew that something was still wrong, that something was wrong. So that July, I ended up having to go into the hospital. I had a very, very high, severe fever, and come to find out, I was in sepsis. Not only was I in sepsis, but my kidneys were so inflamed and swollen that they had to give me emergency stents in both my kidneys. They took blood, and they couldn't figure out why I was fevering so bad. Turns out that I had an antibiotic resistant type of E. coli in my blood. So I was in the hospital for 10 days. And it was pretty scary because I almost died from the sepsis. And come to find out that while I was in the hospital, I had some weird growth on my bladder, on the top of my bladder, a couple centimeters. So from March to July, I grew this growth. So they wanted to wait until I was not fevered for 2 days in a row, because they wanted to go in and do some biopsies on this strange growth. And at first I didn't think anything of it, because I ended up with sepsis and I had E. coli in my blood, so I just thought this strange growth was some kind of bacteria growing in my bladder. So they had taken some samples, and they also did a scraping of the tissue, and before I had left, that came back, and they had said there's no cancer cells in this scraping. So that was good news. So I left the hospital thinking, okay, I've got some strange thing growing in my bladder, but it's not cancer. Well, August 4th, I was diagnosed with bladder cancer. Stage 3. Not good. So, of course, I just couldn't believe it at first, and I said, excuse me, you just told me that I didn't have cancer. Well, it turns out you can have active cancer cells and you can have non-active cancer cells. So when he did the scraping, My cancer cells were not active. So I received a false negative for cancer. So the pathology tests come back that day that my husband and I went to go see the urologist, with it saying, yes, I have stage 3 bladder cancer. So when I was told that, I immediately cried. I actually fell to the ground, and I couldn't believe it. No way. There's no way that I have cancer. I'm only 39 years old. And this type of cancer is found in senior men. You don't see this cancer in younger women. So we went, my doctor had sent it for a second pathology test, and that second pathology test come back as being positive. I go lay down. And then he sent it for a third pathology test, and it actually went to London. And it come back as, yep, stage 3 bladder cancer. So this all happened very quickly. Like I said, the middle of July I was in the hospital. Then beginning of August, I was diagnosed. By the middle of August, I was talking with a specialist, a urologist, and he had told me, Stacey, you're in bad shape. We either take your bladder or you die. So we took the bladder. And in regards to bladder cancer, sometimes it all depends on the stage of your bladder cancer and where it is and whatnot. And with my bladder cancer, it had already by this time taken over the whole top of my bladder, and it was coming down by my ureters. And it was very painful. I was constantly peeing my pants. I could barely walk. I could barely sleep because I had to go to the washroom every 5 minutes. It was very painful. And so with this, when it comes to you losing your bladder, you can get a neobladder, which they make you a fake bladder, and you actually push on it to go pee, or you have a urostomy. And in my situation, a urostomy was the way to go. And I'm not going to lie, at first when I was told, okay, yes, I had to come to grips with losing my bladder. I had to, yes, I'm going to lose my bladder. So I had to get over that hurdle. And then I had to educate myself on urostomies, because all that I thought was, I'm going to have a bag. That's all I kept thinking about. How horrible is that? I'm only 39 years old. How am I supposed to live like that? Because of lack of education. I knew nothing about urostomies, colostomies, ileostomies. I knew nothing. I didn't know what a stoma was. I knew nothing. So my urologist made it quite clear that I have some reading to do, and he told me, he educated me as much as he possibly could. So then I had to come to grips with having a urostomy, which was very hard. But I talked to friends who know people, family members who know people who have urostomies or colostomies and live full lives and, are doing same things as regular people do. So that was a big hurdle to jump. So we finally go for the surgery in September, and that procedure was an 8-hour operation. I actually had 9 procedures done in regards to that operation. I had many lymph nodes removed. Actually, when they opened me up, if we go back, the week that I was supposed to go for this surgery, which is called a radical cystoscopy, my doctor called me in earlier than what I was supposed to go in. He had said that my blood work, there was something, you go for pre-op, you go for your blood work. Something was strange in regards to my blood work. So we had to hurry up and rearrange our lives to get to the hospital 2 days earlier than what I was actually supposed to go for. And when we got there, it was actually late at night when we got there. And the nurse, I just thought something weird with my blood. The nurse had told me that my creatinine levels were through the roof. And I was actually in renal failure. I was in kidney failure. The stents that they had put in back in July were not working anymore. And I was very, very swollen. I had a chemical taste in my mouth, which we come to find out was actually urine. I was so backed up in urine because my kidneys weren't working properly and my bladder, the tumor took over my bladder by this time. I had no space for urine. So urine was backing up into my body. So they had said that they were going to punch stents into my back, which would have went into my kidneys, and I was going to be awake for this. And I panicked and I freaked out and said, "You're not going to punch stents through my back." So it was pretty scary, especially being told that you're in kidney failure. And I could not get this operation to save my life unless they could get my levels down. So I convinced them to give me a catheter, which I knew was going to hurt extremely bad, to see if we can get urine flow through a catheter and drain me that way. Well, thank God it turned out that the urine was just coming and coming and coming, and they didn't have to do that stent through the back of my kidneys. So turns out that for 2 days, I drained urine enough to where they could get my levels to where they needed to be. And I could go ahead with the operation. So when I went, I was scared because this was a big operation. So like I said, this was 9 procedures in one. 9 procedures in one. And I was so scared, but I had to do it. I had lymph nodes removed. I had a hernia that they took out or fixed for me. I had a full hysterectomy. I had pieces of my intestine taken because they had made me an ileal conduit. I had my lady parts reconstructed. I had a lot done. And so I bounced back very quickly, actually, from this operation. They had me walking the next day. I wasn't walking very fast, but they had me up and out of bed the next day. I had 32 staples. I felt so good because I was so sick before this operation, and I knew I was dying. But to wake up and I didn't even feel pain. What I had before was so bad that the pain that I woke up from just having this surgery, I felt nothing. It could have been the morphine drip, but I was so thankful that I didn't have that pain anymore. So remember, this is an elderly disease, so everybody was really happy with how quickly I bounced out of this operation. And they're called ET nurses. They teach you how to change your stoma, your apparatus, your devices. So that was a learning procedure as well. And, they're called wound nurses in the hospital. And mine was the best. And she made sure that when you first get a stoma, it's your intestine. It's your intestine sticking out of your belly. Well, your intestines don't have any nerve endings, so you don't feel it. But when you first get one, they have to stitch it around your belly. So you have stitches all around there, so you feel that. But your actual stoma, you have no feeling in it. You can't feel when you pee, because, like I said, there's no nerve endings in your stoma. And for those of you who don't know what a stoma is, that's exactly what it is. It's a piece of your intestine sticking out of your belly. Looks like a little cherry. Some are bigger than others, but that's what a stoma is. And so my kidneys, everything I drink, my kidneys do their thing. They reattached my ureters to this piece of intestine, which is called an ileal conduit, which then just comes out of my stoma into my apparatus. So that was a big learning curve. Trial and error in regards to that. I can smile now, but I wasn't smiling then. So for those of you who have to have a urostomy, colostomy, or ileostomy, don't give up. It's like I said, it's a learning curve. It's trial and error. Everybody's different. There's so many things that can make your day bad in regards to having a stoma in the beginning, because you're healing, you're losing weight, you've got staples in the way, so you're leaking. It's don't give up. Don't give up. It becomes so easy after a while. You just got to get over that hump. So I had that procedure and in September, and come November, I started chemotherapy. I had a scan before chemotherapy, and it was clean. So everything that they took out of me, my pathology test had come back, and this cancer actually spread to an ovary, to a piece of my uterus, and to some lymph nodes down in my pelvic area. So this is why chemotherapy was brought into play. So I was put on intense chemotherapy. They knew that because of my age, and they did things differently in regards to this cancer, because, like I said, it's an elderly disease. They normally do radiation and chemotherapy first and then do the surgery, because the elderly don't bounce out of surgery as well as younger people. But they couldn't do that with me because I was dying, and they had to act quickly. So we did it the other way around. So the end of November, I started my first round of chemotherapy. And, when you're diagnosed with cancer, your whole life flashes in front of you. You think that you're going to die. You don't want to die. Nobody wants to die. You think you're allowed to have that pity party. You're allowed to cry. You're allowed to scream. You're allowed to say, why me? You're allowed. And, the way I look at it, you're given two choices when your doctor tells you you have cancer. No matter what cancer, no matter what kind, no matter what that doctor says, you have two choices. You put your hands up in the air and you just give up, or you fight. And you fight hard. Not knowing, I think, is the scariest part. When you think of chemotherapy, it's not pretty. You lose your hair. But you find weird spots when you lose your hair that you don't normally see because you have hair there. I've got half an eyebrow. My eyelashes are next to none. You get moon face. That's this big chunky face from the steroids. And your organs, your whole body has to act differently while you're going through chemotherapy. It does a number on your body, but it's only temporary. Nobody dances into chemo. Nobody says, "Yay, I have chemo today." So when you first go into chemo, you really have no idea. You can read up on it until you can't read anymore. I did. And it really just scared me more. So what I decided to do was I made a music playlist, and it was all the music. I love music. I dance every day with my children. I listen to everything from 50s to now. I just love music. And it moves me. Doesn't matter how sick I am. I can get through with music. So that's what I found worked for me. And when you go for chemotherapy, there's so much, I don't want to say ugliness, but there's always, it's sad. And there's always somebody worse than what you are. And, every day, you just want to get through it. Everybody calls me, everybody says that I'm an inspiration, and I'm so strong, and, it's hard. It's hard to find the strength, because you have those days where you're just like, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. This is too hard. I don't want to feel like this anymore. You feel alone. It takes everything inside of you to push through. And I found that strength in my children, in my husband, in my family, friends. Because when you have cancer, you become a patient. You can't be a mom. You can't be a wife. You can't be the sister, the friend. You become the patient. And you have to allow yourself to be that patient. Because your body takes a blow and you need to heal. And no matter, it's going to get rough. It gets hard. Some people, everybody's different with chemo. Some people, their chemo, they only have a day of downtime, 24 hours of downtime. I am lucky enough to have 7 days of downtime. It all depends. It all depends on what type of chemo you're getting. Everybody's different. Everybody's body acts differently. But where you find that strength to move on and to keep pushing, is, you want to live. But you do it through your kids, your friends, your family. You have to have a support group. If having a good support group makes everything easier. I plastered my whole journey on Facebook so my friends and family could be involved, and I don't see them all the time, right? And so I wanted to keep them updated and informed, and just by doing that, them sending little messages, or, hey, I'm thinking about you today, or, you got this, Stacey, way to go, girl. It helps you. It helps you get through those tough days. I can tell you right now that no cancer patient's going to ask you for help. It's very hard, especially I found it very hard because I'm a very strong woman, very independent woman. I was a workaholic. I didn't want to be looked at as weak. And weak is what I became. My body became very weak. And so I found it hard to ask for help. So don't wait for a cancer patient. If you know somebody with cancer, don't wait for them to ask you for help. Even if you're just there, sitting beside them while they're sleeping, or you make them a cup of soup, or you make them dinner. And I've been very grateful. I've had many people make us dinners that we just put in the freezer and then pop in the oven and they're ready. Because there's nothing worse than having to cook while you're going through chemo. Some days it's very hard to get out of bed. So we were very grateful that we had all the love and support that we had. So my chemo was a 6 round of intense every other week. And on my 4th round, I had a CAT scan and it came back clean. So I'm happy to say that I have beaten my stage 3 cancer. And I decided, because I had a 6 rounds, so that was at 4, we decided to finish off my rounds. So I have my final round this week. And I'm so grateful and happy because it was so hard. It was so hard. And I found that if you do have cancer, talk to somebody who has cancer. When you go to the clinic for your chemotherapy, talk to the patients beside you, because you're going to find out all those weird things that go through your mind, all those feelings that you feel. They're feeling the same thing. Nobody knows what you're going through other than somebody else who's going through it. And I found that talking to other cancer patients made me feel normal. Made me feel that, especially talking to cancer survivors, I can do this. I can be a cancer survivor. I'm going to beat this. I'm going to kick it. I'm going to win. We tend to take things out on the ones we love. And I found that in my worst days, I had quite a few really bad days. My mom or my husband, I told them, I can't do this anymore. I'm going to die. So I was lucky enough to have them smack me upside my head and say, stop thinking like that, stop talking like that. I know it's rough, but you're going to get through. And I did. I got through it. And like I said, I don't, there's people out there that'll sugarcoat it and say, oh, it's only 6 rounds. You can do it. You'll be okay. And I had people actually tell me that. But I'm not gonna sugarcoat it for you. I'm not gonna say that it's fun, because it's not. But I do want to tell you that you got to keep fighting. You can't give up. You have to keep fighting. And I chose to shave my head before I let cancer take my hair away. And I'm not a wig person. I actually normally, when I do have hair, it's short and funky and different colors, and I just like to have fun with my hair. Well, it's wintertime, so I can't really... If it was summertime, I would go outside bald all the time. So like if I'm in the mall or whatnot, I'll take my hat off. I wear hats, or I'll wear a scarf. Excuse me. And people stare. So if you're one of those people who stare at bald people, stop. We're already going through enough. We don't need you staring at us. Yes, we look like a cancer patient. We have no control over this. Please don't stare. I've actually confronted a few people who stared at me. That's just because that's who I am. And, you know, and also, if you're afraid to show your bald head and you are a woman, don't be afraid. Embrace it. Because the moment that you show fear, you've let cancer win. Just embrace it. So what? You're bald. Who cares? You're alive. Just embrace it. Don't let cancer win. Don't be ashamed. It's only temporary. Our hair will grow back. And being bald, that doesn't make you. That's not who you are. Your hair, it's just hair. Who you are in your heart is you. So, like I said, I just wanted to make this video because I feel that there's somebody out there that I can help or educate. It's been quite a year, but I've made it. And like I said before, don't lose hope. Be strong. I know it's hard. It's going to be hard every day. But get that support system. Let everybody know how you're feeling, because you're going to have those days where you're really sad. And some days you just got to cry. Just cry. It's okay. Just don't give up. Because that moment you show fear, that moment you give up, you've let it win. And we don't want to let it win. So I hope that I've helped somebody or touched somebody in regards to this. And that's my journey.